Pakistan because Pakistan is not an ordinary place, but Pakistan is that very special, chosen place where, God willing, pure-hearted people will gather. His love, truth, compassion, and serving. Serving Allah Almighty, the original source of everything, and our eternal Lord and Master, and our eternal beloved, and service of all of God's creation. So I have a very interesting topic for today I wanted to discuss. I have been struggling with this idea for a long, long time, at least for 10 years since I met my good wife and spiritual teacher, because although I was clearly directed to serve her and accept her as my teacher, my spiritual teacher, we are very different. We have been very different all of our lives. I have been very religious, and she has been able to see the negative aspects of religion very easily. She could see through what the priests and nuns, and she was in a Roman Catholic family. Her mother was from Nicaragua, and a strong Roman Catholic country, and so she was raised going to Roman Catholic schools, and she didn't like the schools. She could see how hypocritical many of the teachers were. Some of them she liked. There were some that were nice, but most of them she didn't enjoy at all. That religiosity of those people. She could see through it. She could see the hypocrisy. But she was a deeply spiritual person, as I've told before. When she was 11 years old, she had some, which I can only call some divine experience of God. And so she was always very deeply spiritual, but not religious. I, on the other hand, was very religious most of my life. So the issue that came up very early in our relationship was that she stressed the idea of sovereignty, of being sovereign, and not submitting, not surrendering to these religious authorities who claimed that you should do whatever they said. Which is the way I thought all my life. Yes, you should do what the religious authorities teach you. There was a period when I was 17 years old, 16, 17 years old, when I challenged that idea, but within a year or two, I had returned to that religious notion of we should follow the religious authorities. So, the title of this chat is Servitude and Sovereignty. I always felt that we should serve God and serve the person who were representing God, whether they were the priests and ministers or the Sunday school teachers or our parents. Where the religion taught us we should obey the leaders of the religion. That I believed. Almost all of my life I believed that and did my best to follow that. But my wife had the opposite point of view. She, from the beginning, felt we should not follow these religious teachers and leaders because she could see they were hypocritical and they were cheating people, really, and they were not following themselves what they were telling us to do. We must develop our own inner knowing, our own sovereignty. So this was a big difference between us. There were many differences in many ways. We both had a deep interest in understanding and knowing the truth, but we had come to very, very different conclusions. So some days ago, a week or two ago, I announced that I'm going to be teaching more what my spiritual teacher and my good wife teaches, because I realized I really was led to her. And I still haven't fully understood why I was led to her and why I had very clear instruction that I should serve her and accept her as my spiritual teacher or as my religious authority, you could say. So I was very confused for a long time by this discrepancy between servitude, serving God and serving the God's creation, as I always have stressed, and sovereignty, or knowing within yourself what is the truth, and not following any external authority, especially if you can see clearly they are hypocritical or deviating from what you can understand is the truth. So what I'm trying to understand now, even today, this morning when I woke up, I was actually in the middle of praying. I was meditating on the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and I was speaking with him, you could say. I was asking him for guidance on this issue, which has been challenging me for many years. And now that I've said that I will share with you more the teachings of my spiritual teacher rather than my own realizations, I've been thinking a lot about this issue of servitude and sovereignty. So what she says is that we are sovereign beings. We all have our own choices to make, and we can agree to either follow what somebody else has told us, whether it is a religious leader or a psychologist or anyone who has some sort of position of authority. So we can agree to either follow what they tell us to do, or we can strive to understand ourselves, within ourselves, what is the truth. So because she has been practicing this for so long, she has actually come to a point where I've observed it very clearly. She can see the truth. She can see me better than I can. She can understand even I may be deceiving myself, and she can understand that, and she can point it out to me, and she does. And this has helped me an awful lot. I've learned so much in the past 10 years from her. So now I'm going to try to understand myself and try to share this idea of sovereignty and what it really means. So I've briefly explained it already, what we will do and what we will believe. And we should not surrender to somebody else and just do whatever they say or believe whatever they teach. People to follow me. I should not tell people to believe just what I teach. They can hear and consider it, and I should teach them don't just believe blindly what I say. Whatever I say, if it appeals to you, you must decide yourself. You must feel in your heart whether it is true or not. Just don't accept blindly what somebody else teaches, because this is what religion has been teaching us for thousands of years. Religion has been teaching that we should just blindly follow the religious authorities. Even if we can't understand what they're saying, even if it seems wrong to us, still we should truth within ourselves. We must, ultimately, that's the way we always do it. If we decide we're going to follow a certain religious authority, that's our decision. We have decided to follow this, what they're teaching. So whether it's religion or science, it doesn't matter. We should not just accept what we are told. We must learn to understand and see the truth within, in our hearts. We can feel the truth, our gut feeling, we sometimes say. So this is the most important thing. There are many other things which I will talk about in future, I hope, but this is the most important thing. Sovereignty means you yourself are going to have to decide which religious authority you're going to follow or not, which scientific authority you're not or not we're going to follow. Ultimately, we make that decision. So we should not abandon our sovereignty. We should not give up our sovereignty to somebody else. We should understand clearly that we are the ones who make the decision whether we're going to follow somebody else or not. And we are the ones who have that sovereignty. God has given us this sovereignty. God has given us this freedom, this free, this is a responsibility. It's a heavy responsibility. Some people don't like the freedom because we make the wrong choice and then we suffer because of it. But we have that freedom. We must choose. Ultimately, are we going to follow what somebody else teaches us, or are we going to rely on our own inner knowing? And that's what sovereignty means, to rely on your own inner knowing. And ultimately, we all make that decision ourselves. Even if the decision is to submit to some religious or scientific authority, that's our decision. So we should be very careful not to give up our sovereignty and not to think that, we should just follow somebody else blindly because they told us to. Anyway, so servitude and sovereignty was the topic I chose for this chat. So I've spoken much longer than I've usually been doing. thought I would stress it, so be able to have a murshid. But that is a spiritual relationship, and you must make that choice. You are sovereign. You must make the choice. And your murshid may not be from the same sect or same religion even as you. So just like everyone asks me, will you please be my murshid? I always say, no, I cannot be a murshid. I'm not qualified. But my good wife, she is my, although she doesn't allow me to call her that, but she really is my spiritual teacher. She is my murshid. Um, Although I'm not a very good disciple, but but so you must choose yourself. You must seek truthfully, honestly, sincerely, and pray. And if you are sincere, if you really want a spiritual teacher, then God will arrange it. Allah Almighty will certainly arrange it if that's what you really want, and that's what you feel you must have. Then and most of us definitely do. I myself definitely need a murshid and have benefited so much from my murshid's instructions. I would never have been able to do what I'm doing now without her continuous, constant, repeated instruction. Feel your truth in your heart. Don't just follow somebody else. You must, within your heart, know the truth. So at least you must know the truth about the murshid. If you want to have a murshid and you want to follow a murshid, you yourself must make that choice, and that choice will be given to you, and God will make the arrangements for you. Well, I'm glad I was able to answer that question before getting cut off, but let us see. Ashraful Makhluqat says, oh, what a nice name. Sir, do you think our inner conscious or our Zamir inside us is actually Allah who is telling us right and wrong? Yes, of course, Allah is in us. We all know that. Every religion teaches. Quran says God is closer to us than our jugular vein. Allah is in our hearts and He is speaking to us. The problem, of course, is that Shaitan is also, our enemy is also speaking to us. God is our best friend. He is in our hearts speaking to us and giving us guidance. And the enemy, the adversary, is also in our hearts speaking to us and trying to mislead us. So certainly it's true that Allah is in our heart giving us guidance, but we have to be careful because we can make a mistake. We are human. Therefore, it's very good to have a teacher to help train us how to not make so many mistakes and learn to make better choices and see things better. But certainly Allah is in our heart and telling us right and wrong. And the more we listen to that voice and the more we act upon that voice and do what is right, the easier it becomes to hear it. And the more we disregard it, either to hear the voice of Allah within us. Okay, so yes, certainly Allah is speaking to every one of us, and we must hear and follow that voice, and then it becomes easier to hear and understand. And if we disregard it and don't follow it for whatever reason, then it becomes harder. So it's a challenge. It's a struggle for each one of us. But God is helping us. Okay, I'm going to try to see if there are any questions that relate specifically to our topic. Ashraful Makhluqat again says, everyone has only one inner conscious or zamir. Proves Allah is one. Inner conscious knows everything about us like Allah do. Yes, I believe that Allah is within us as our inner conscious and speaking to us and giving us guidance. But whether it's our own mind or it's Satan, there is definitely a conflict. We hear one voice says this, then another voice says that. This is the nature of the mind. We're always thinking, oh, this, no, that, no, this. So we must gradually become purified. The purer we become in our awareness, the easier it will become to hear the true voice of God in our heart. And the clamoring of our mind is always saying, do this, no, do that, no, this is good, no, that, no. But that voice will become clear to us also what that is. That's not the voice of God. So, all right. Ashraful Makhluqat says, I had some guidelines by Allah that He is inside us, every one of us. Yes, very good. Allah is definitely inside of us, every one of us, and He is giving us good guidance constantly. Thank you very much. That is the basis of our sovereignty. When we can connect, come clear to us what guidance coming from outside is a false claim to, because that is a tendency that especially religious leaders and scientists just as much have. They want people to follow them and want people to do what they say. Um, Even parents, sometimes. If they're good parents, they won't. My parents were very good. They never, especially when we became older, of course, when we were younger, we did what they said, but as we became older and we had some different ideas, they encouraged us to follow your own inner uh, convictions, even if they're different from ours. My parents taught us that. So, but many parents, I'll say, they want their children just to follow them and do what they say. So even parents are sometimes like religious leaders and scientists who try to get people to follow them for whatever reason, even though it's not really the truth. And even many scientists know that what they're saying is not the truth because they themselves are confused. Science is in a big state of confusion these days about many issues, but they don't admit that. They try to get you to follow, especially they're allied with some political forces and subservient to some political forces or money. Scientists do research and they get money for their research, so they have to do what the moneyed people want them to do if they want to get their money to do their research. So scientists are even worse than religious leaders often, trying to get people to do what they, for their own ulterior motives. So this is a very, very, thank you. That's a very good comment, exactly relevant to what we are discussing today. Let's see, Ashraful Makrukat, learn how to listen, and we need help usually. Paul says, Dear sir, please pray for me that I have kind and loving heart like yourself, and there should be no thoughts in my heart and soul for anyone. Thanks. Oh God, please bless Fawad Khan and everyone who's listening to this. Please bless them that they may learn this very, very important lesson, to be kind and loving and have no negative thoughts. Of course, I'm not so kind and loving, and I do have negative thoughts. I also pray that all of us may have a kind and loving heart and reduce the negative thoughts. They're not going to all immediately, but we should pray that they will be reduced and more positive thoughts will be. Okay. Let's see. Khan Mazi, sir, when you will visit Mianwali, we will host you. Okay, inshallah, when I come to Pakistan, try to contact me. And I don't know, I've of course been through Mianwali, but I've never stayed there, so I'll be happy to visit you there. Let's see, we have a lot of comments here. अस्सलाम वालेकुम, आप कब पाकिस्तान आ रहे हैं? इंशाल्लाह अक्टूबर महीने में हम कोशिश कर रहे हैं, लेकिन देखेंगे अल्लाह क्या चाहता है. Fawad Khan, sir, why sometimes one feels really calm and loving, then some other day one feels angry or agitated for no apparent reason? What should we do that we should always stay calm, peaceful, and happy? Well, my answer would be just call on the names of God. That will help us become peaceful. Or my wife, a good teacher, would say, breathe deeply, calm yourself down by taking deep breaths. So I do both these things now. We can do it right now, and you will learn. If you haven't learned this already, simply by taking deep breaths, your mind becomes peaceful, and the agitation reduces simply by gradually, slowly breathing in very deeply, filling your lungs completely, and then exhaling slowly, completely. Empty the lungs completely. That deep breathing is a very good way. I'd learned that before also, but my wife also stresses that sort of meditation by breathing and focusing on the breath. And I put them together, focusing on the breath and as she does, especially she has taught to focus on the sound of salam, salam, salam. Just as I was saying salam, cooling breeze. It's very lovely, fragrant breeze. It just came up and now it's continuing. You can see the leaves are moving. So that is a confirmation that yes, this breathing and reciting the name of God, Salam, which means peace, that will bring peace and relieve our minds of agitation. But it's a constant struggle. The mind is always going here and there. Okay, Abdul Mumin Manam, are you coming to Pakistan permanently? Inshallah, I've always planned uh, to live in Pakistan permanently. That was from many, many years ago. That was my desire, and I did spend many years in Pakistan from 1980, 81. Of course, as a child, I was in Pakistan, but then I returned in the early 80s, and I spent a lot of time in Pakistan. Then I got married and had children. I came to the United States to do some more education. And then I decided when my children are grown, then I will return and live in Pakistan permanently, inshallah. So now they are all grown and they all have jobs, as somebody asked me yesterday. So I'm wanting to move back to Pakistan permanently, especially to live in Qatar. I have other obligations here now too. My good wife is not in very good health, so hopefully she will become in good enough health and that she will be able to come